Our class today will look at market structures, where we're going to look at some of the markets that are there. So in the market structures, we have a number of markets. To start with, we have what we call a monopoly. A monopoly is simply a single supplier to a market. This firm may choose to produce at any point on the market demand curve. So a monopoly, as a term mono, means one. So there are certain characteristics that you need to know about a monopoly. So one of them is these have heavy barriers to entry. Now, the reason why a monopoly, in your mind, what you should have is a firm like Zesco. The reason why a monopoly has barriers to entry is that it has what we call monopoly power. These kinds of power inhibit other competitors to join this kind of market. One, because of the technical barriers. Secondly, because of what we call legal barriers. Technicalities that are involved in coming up with a plant like Zesco. There are also politics that are involved in there and legal requirements and the cost and impact as well. So the technical barriers here really look at the process of production. In this case, we may understand a key concept which is called marginal costs that are exhibited. So what happens is, for a monopoly that has economies to scale or establishments that are stable, you'll discover that if a competitor decides to join in this market, they could simply cut their prices to frustrate any entrant, causing them to operate at a loss. And this is what we call a natural monopoly. This is what makes most of these new firms almost impossible to join. I'll give you an example. When Zambia Sugar was in a monopoly, it has byproducts like molasses, bagasse, which it sells. So for Kafia Sugar and Kasama Sugar, it was an intervention of the law that allowed them to really function fully, because Zambia Sugar was able to have the capacity to reduce the sugar even to 1 kwacha, because they were making profit from the other byproducts like molasses, bagasse. Of course, it could also make power. So this is what we call a natural monopoly. So another technical basis of a monopoly is the special knowledge of low-cost productive technique. So it will be difficult to keep this knowledge out of the hands of other firms. So they have some kind of technical know-how which will enable them produce at a very minimal cost because of the experience they've had. Now, the ownership of resources may also be a lasting basis for maintaining a monopoly. So if you're a monopoly, you need to have a unique source of resources and control over where the materials are coming from, such that if this competitor wants to come in the market, they should not know where your resources are or the material sources are to make them a competitor enough. The legal barriers here under a pure monopoly is created under the matter of the law, where patents are assigned to one particular firm, and the government will also award exclusive franchise rights to save in the market. Thus, that should any other firm decide to operate as maybe a power utility, the law would come in. Are we together so far?
Yes.
All right. So this makes it almost impossible for other competitors. In the case that we had, although not a monopoly, like telecommunication industry, we for a long time had only 3 because of issues of the law, where the government had made an arrangement with these telecommunication companies not to allow other telecommunication companies to come in. And see how Vodafone really died out because they're not allowed to operate under what? under voice calls. So these are issues of the law that frustrate other competitors coming in play. And when we go to creation of barriers, some barriers may result from the actions taken by the firm itself. For instance, developing what is called a research and development department, where this department is able to come up with new techniques of new products and technologies that will enable them outperform other competitors. So we have research and development department for Trade King, which is doing so fine. We have Victory. They're always wanting to discover new, unique products that will outperform other competitors, make their products unique. Other barriers that can be created by the firm's actions could be lobbying efforts to gain monopolistic power. They will have attempts to put restrictions on whosoever will try to produce a particular product that they have done. For instance, Coca-Cola, they've had a lot of lawsuits. Should there be any company that will produce a similar or exact form? Of course, others have been there, like Pepsi, that have tried to differentiate in terms of flavor. You know, for Fanta, we know they've done a Mirinda. For Coca-Cola, they've done a Pepsi. They're trying to, but not the exact formula. So also in terms of barriers, we also have attempts by the monopolists to erect barriers to entry by involving real resource costs. Now, the real resource costs entail the firm has to dig in their pockets and make marginal differences that copycats may not even manage to outplay. For instance, a technological know-how of the iPhone. In that case, with special iCloud, special features, how the iPhone looks like, they've invested huge capital to monopolize it. Profit maximization. So to maximize profit in this kind of market structure, the firms will have to produce a level of output for which the MR, the marginal revenue, is equal to MC, which is the marginal cost. So whenever the marginal revenue is less than the price, we have a downward slope for this monopoly. I'll show you the curves. It's always downsloping. So the marginal revenue, which is usually less than the price. So the monopoly must always lower its price on all the units to be sold for them to generate an extra demand on the unit. So profit maximization occurs when MR is equal to MC. And the price must be above the marginal revenue for monopolist. So this is how the curve looks like. The demand, the marginal revenue is there. Then the average cost, half of it is the marginal cost. So the point where marginal revenue and marginal cost meet is here. You draw your point there to touch the demand. That's where the price is. Then you touch the turning point of the average cost to make our cost. So this is what we call the economic profits. They make abnormal profits in the short run. All right, the demand, which is the average revenue, and the marginal revenue. Then we have our average costs. Then in between there, our marginal cost cuts the point where our demand, our marginal revenue meets the marginal cost here. It's a profit maximizing point. So you draw your line upward where it's touching the average cost. You draw the line this side. So this is our profit. So profit is maximized when the MR is equal to what? MC. and the price should always be above the what? Marginal revenue. So the firm will charge at the price P. The profit will be found in the shaded rectangle. Okay. So using equations when we're given the demand function, which is 100 minus 2q (100 minus 2q) and our marginal cost, maybe it's given as 8q. So we need to maximize profit. So to maximize profit, this monopoly, marginal revenue must be equal to the marginal cost. So to find the marginal revenue, you simply multiply 2 onto the gradient of the price function. So A minus 2B. So our B is the 2 there. To make a marginal revenue there, it'll simply be 100 minus what? 4q. That's a shortcut if you don't use calculus. If there was 10 there, it would be 20. If there was 3 there, it would be 6. So our marginal cost is 100 minus what? 4q. So marginal cost should be equal to marginal revenue. Our marginal cost is 8q. So when this one goes the other side, it will add 8q plus 4q is 12. So when you divide both sides by 12, our q will therefore be equal to 100 divided by 12. What do we get?
8.3.
8.3. Right. All right. So suppose our marginal cost is 10 and our price is 15 minus 2q, and we maximize profit for this monopoly. So what becomes our marginal revenue? What becomes our marginal revenue? Marginal revenue will be 15 minus what? Multiply 2 here, so it becomes what? 4q. So to maximize profit, MC is equal to what? MR. So 10 is equal to 15 minus 4q. So 4q is equal to what? 15 minus, which is 5. So Q is equal to 5 out of 4, which is 1 point what? 1.25. But this is the number of units that we maximize. Okay. All right, so let's go back to business. Elasticity in this row.
So all these are looking at the characteristics of monopoly.
Yes, we are still looking at the characteristics of monopoly, yeah. Okay. So, we know that elasticity of demand looks at how sensitive firms are. So demand is inelastic when we're dealing with a monopoly. So the gap between a firm's price and its marginal cost is inversely related to the price. So here we have the price elasticity as follows. So there are two general conclusions when we're dealing with a monopoly. A monopoly will choose to operate in regions where the market demand is elastic. Then they do also understand that the firm's markup over the marginal cost depends inversely on the market elasticity of demand. So in a monopoly, the profits will always be positive only if the price is greater than the average costs. The monopoly can continue into the long run because it is not possible. So some economists usually refer to profit in a monopoly as monopoly rents. So the profits, others call them abnormal profits, others call them limit profits. So the size of the monopoly in the long run will usually depend on the relationship that we have between the average cost and the demand. So here was our initial stage where our marginal costs and our marginal revenue meet. This point here touches the average, so this is a profit. But what happens here, the average cost will shift upwards there. They will come here, hence depleting this profit here, being eaten up. Because initially we had it here, okay, which caused us to have what? Our profit. So now this one here shifts up to this point, causing this profit to be depleted, and we have economic profits at this point. Are there any questions so far?
Just finding the graph a bit complicated.
The graphs are a little bit complicated.
Yes.
So graphs, let me make them basic. So we have 1, 2. Okay, this is called the average revenue. And this is the marginal revenue. If this is 12, this is 6. Then we draw our average cost here. Then half of this is our marginal cost. Are we together so far?
Yes, so far together.
Then where the marginal revenue and the marginal cost meet here, you draw a line above this one here will be the price that we're going to charge.
Like you said, what the what and what mean?
The marginal cost meet
The
marginal revenue.
marginal cost and marginal revenue.
Yes,
What they mean?
they meet here. You draw
Yes, you draw a line.
until it touches the average revenue
Oh,
here.
you have to draw the line until it touches the average revenue.
Yes. Then you look at 2 points. Marginal where it touches the average revenue and the average cost here. So this is what we call the profit. So this is the short run. Okay. The long run, you do the same. 1, 2. Average revenue and the marginal revenue. Then you draw what? AU. This is our what? Average cost. Now, this case, we're not
So
going
the average cost has to cut both the marginal revenue and average revenue. Like as you are drawing the U.
yes, even both of them, even the marginal cost. But this case, we're not going to do the average revenue like this. But you need to know that here is average what? Revenue. So what cuts in between is what?
The marginal
So just to
cost.
it, right? Then it cuts in between there. Then this one will come out because it's the long run. Instead of being there, it will go upwards. To go upwards. Yeah. Our average cost. So when the average cost goes here, it depletes this profit that we made there. All right. So when the profit marginal cost here still meets here. So here, so here, so this becomes economic profit now in the long run. So this is how we draw it. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what a monopoly was. So just a quick recap before I went in depth. One market, which is the monopoly. There are 4 markets as a monopoly. What are the markets?
Perfect competition,
Mhm.
oligopoly,
Mhm.
and the monopolistic competition.
Yes, monopolistic competition. Correct. So these are the markets that we have. So we're just discussing the first market, which was the monopoly. The monopoly, what are the characteristics we spoke about?
We talked about the barriers to entry, the technical barriers, legal barriers, a monopoly profit, creation of barriers, and profit maximization.
Okay. So that is on a monopoly. Okay, what else did you say?
Under monopoly.
Hmm?
So we said we defined what a monopoly is, which is the single factor producer.
So it is a single seller or producer.
Single producer.
No substitutes, okay? Then the barriers to entry. Okay, these are 3 sources. Could be ownership, resources, government, because of the restrictions or the rights that they give, and the costs that make a single producer more efficient.
Okay.
So those are the costs. Then also Although an exclusive monopoly or a pure monopoly is rare to exist because government has to move in to control one or two things. But government-created monopolies are there to restrict entry by giving a single firm exclusive rights to sell their products. For instance, ESCO. So we have what we call the patent rights. These are the laws that are important to give it legal power. So we talked about a national monopoly, which comes out when a firm can sell a good or a service to the entire market at a smaller cost than could two firms do. So monopoly, single producer has a downward sloping curve. These are price makers. They set the price, then it reduces the price to increase the sales. Then we talked about competitive as a competitive firm. Monopoly is one of the many producers. It has a horizontal. For perfect competition, there are many producers as a horizontal curve, which is a price taker, and sells as much or little at the same price. So a monopoly is down sloping. So a perfect competition, it is a straight line. So monopoly, we said profit is maximized when MR is equal to MC. The revenue is equal to marginal cost. In a monopoly, our margin revenue must be less than the price, down sloping. And when the monopoly increases the amount it sells, there are two effects that we have. The output effect, which arises when more output is sold, the quantity is higher, and we also have the price effect. When the price falls, so P becomes lower. So this is how this happens. Demand, which is average revenue, and our marginal revenue. Okay. In monopoly, you only maximize profit at the point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. It then uses the demand to find the price that will induce for consumers to buy the quantity. So remember what I said, demand, which is the average revenue, marginal revenue. Average, the marginal cost cuts in between there. So where it meets the marginal revenue, the marginal cost, you draw a line and you connect. Where it touches the average revenue or the demand, that's the price. Then you go down here where it is touching the average revenue. You can draw a line to show you where the profit will be. The profit will be that's on this line. This is where our abnormal profit is. Okay. So in a perfect competition, the price is actually the marginal revenue. So where MR is equal to MC, we're maximizing profit. Or you can say where price is equal to MC, we are also maximizing profit. All right. So with monopoly, we need to understand that profit is usually equal to the total revenue minus the total cost. So profit is a difference between the total revenue minus the total cost. So this is where the monopoly profit I've explained falls. So monopoly will receive economic profits as long as the price is greater than the average revenue. So this is the economic profit that we always do. So here's also what we call equilibrium, or the efficient level of output, our marginal cost, and our demand. At the point where they meet, we call that efficient quantity. So we also will explain the deadweight loss later on. Basically, this is what we can discuss on the monopoly. Unless there are any questions.
You said for under monopoly profits, I suppose it's always positive as when price is greater than what?
When the price is greater than our marginal revenue.
Marginal revenue?
Yes. When the price is also above the average cost. So we always make economic profits as long as the price is more than the average total cost. So in this case, if our average total cost is here, we always make an economic profit. But if it shifts here, where the price is, we don't make an economic profit. So this one must always be down there for us to make an economic profit. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So we end for now.
Okay.